Hello, welcome back to the Ineffableelse. Welcome if you're new here. This is going to be another video in our series about Jupiter, so I'm glad that you can join me here. This time we'll be talking about Jupiter in the sign of Virgo, and it will also apply to you if you have Jupiter in the 6th house, the house of health and healing, or if you have Jupiter conjunct with Mercury, which would be the absolute smallest planet in our solar system, combining with the largest. Very interesting combination. So with anything Virgo, 6th house, Mercury related, I have a really nice series all about Mercury, a nice introduction video as well, with a poem that I wrote, and it is really about words, communication, little details, and expanding on the details is what you're going to be doing here with Jupiter. Jupiter likes to enhance, to exaggerate and expand anything it comes into contact with. So if it's there with anything with a mercurial quality, it will be an emphasis in either good communication or the need for good communication. So it will be a repetitive theme that you see come back into your life. It will be a theme whenever anything passes through Virgo, such as the moon or any other planet. You will feel an expansion of this very sign. This is, in some ways, it's a quality that is very large in your life. It looms large, and if you've not engaged with it before, I suggest that you do, because this is indicative of someone with a lot of capacity for healing yourself, those around you, animals, small things, small details, small problems that can be fixed and dealt with early on before they become big problems. And this is what Virgo is very adept at. This is the sign with the most common sense. You know, common sense is the least common of the senses, and it can be really good for you to bring in that dose of reality to a given situation and to lay the cards on the table. And with Jupiter, of course, you're going for a higher truth. You're going for the highest truth. So it's analysing detail and drawing conclusions from that detail. Always be careful of your prior beliefs and assumptions that you make, which can then lead you to results that have not taken everything into account. And whilst this is your greatest gift for detail and understanding the need for detail, it can also be the area where you are challenged. So you need to make sure you get your data right, you are logging it correctly, and you are accountable for those things you create. You don't want to be one of these background people who fucks everything up and then you can just run away. It's having that responsibility and knowing the power you've been charged with utilizing. And it's often the scientists there. It's very difficult to be a scientist who will not be bought. So this is just one maybe slightly niche example, but if you are a scientist, to allow yourself to be faithful to science and to the scientific process, the process of testing and evaluating and retesting and starting from absolute zero without any preconceptions to get the absolute, as close to the absolute truth as you can. So if you are then, as Jupiter is pertaining a lot with wealth, money, if you are too easily swayed by the direction of the dollar, then you just may as well not be a scientist, or you may as well not call yourself a scientist. It has to be the scientific method or nothing. And it applies to scientists, but this will apply to all areas of your life, including communication, because Mercury is very communicative, very good at expressing itself. And if you find your words being politicized or used for certain ends, you want it to be clean, you want it to be really pure. There's a lack of need for luxury, a lack of ability to swell this placement. I was just doing one about Leo, and it's very easy to boost and bolster that ego. And with this placement, don't allow yourself to be hit with that. There's a flattery that Jupiter often becomes a victim to, and it's much better for you to be that impartial figure who doesn't show preference based on personal gain, on personal belief systems or tribalism, but someone who's rather much more not even in the center, more on the outside looking in. There's an observer quality to this. Hermes was always the god that was flitting between the gods, delivering messages to humans from God. So for you to be able to do that, you need to make sure you're as clear a channel as possible. Of course, Virgo qualities are to do with small things, small animals. Perhaps you're a vet, and working in animal welfare. It is also to do with small ideas becoming great through the blessing of Jupiter. There's a fortunate quality to Jupiter, which means anything it's in conjunction with, anything that it's aspected by, any sign that it's in, will be tinged with a feeling of really good fortune. I mean, look at me. I'm in the most amazing relationship in the world. My Jupiter falls in Libra, Libra being this sign of relationship. So that area of your life will be easily nourished and easily allowed to blossom by external factors, by the universe itself. Whether or not you allow yourself to blossom in those ways, that is entirely up to you. And really, the biggest gift that we were given is the human will. So we need to learn how to use it. So what is your Mars placement doing? Do you have other parts of your chart which scream louder, which you're listening to? Perhaps you have a mind that won't shut up. Maybe it's better to bring it back to this much more optimistic placement. And it's an optimism which is very, very useful when in combination with health. Because in the sphere of health, we need solutions, we need preventative care. And you can be one of those forerunners that's making that possible. It's a kind of jostling that has to happen in society to allow the money to be distributed, allow the resources to be distributed worldwide to best serve the individual, who will then be able to contribute to the whole. And it's very, very hard to work with collective energy in that way. So all you can do is work with your own little piece of the puzzle and do your bit to contribute. And it has to also benefit you. There's sometimes a selflessness with Virgo. By all means, take your pleasure and your joy from helping others, but do not fill from an empty cup. Spend as much time as you would loving a stranger, loving your partner, and loving yourself. It has to have that same level of presence and heart and warmth. And because you're very able to be analytical and to see the big problems, it's sometimes easy to then see the problems within yourself. And it's almost the reverse of that saying, remove the log from your own eye before you move the splinter from another. And it's really more seeing the splinter in your own eye and not recognizing that there are logs everywhere else. And sometimes you put your trust in other people and you might put yourself down and not really be able to see yourself particularly clearly. In this case, the scientific method is vital, really important for you to be able to see yourself clearly, what you can contribute, what you need to do for you to make yourself happier, more at peace. Anything that you do towards genuine peace within yourself is going to benefit the wider world. The issue with individualism is it gets wrapped up in this idea of hedonism and doing stuff just to create pleasure. And there's this wonderful old Irish folk song. When I was a young girl, I used to seek pleasure. When I was a young girl, I used to drink ale. I was straight out of the ale house and into the jailhouse. Straight from the bar room and into my grave. And it's that looking up with reflection on what seemed to be very pleasurable and enjoyable in the past. Of course, it ends up destroying yourself and harming those around you. So we need to try to extrapolate that hedonistic quality of individualism from an individualism where it's an excitement about, wow, how can I improve myself physically, emotionally, mentally. Mentally, half the time is, I've discovered, going for a walk, looking at the problem that's swimming in my mind, and then bringing my mind down into my body and swimming around in the body, going back up to the head and saying, wow, that was not important. How was I giving that even a minute of my time to consider that wasn't important? And I have no way of changing that anyway. And it kind of gives you that wider perspective, which is very necessary with any Virgo placement, is to go up and see things from a wider perspective, because in that wider perspective you may see something that you hadn't originally recognized because you've had your eyes too tightly zoomed in on a microscope. So instead, broaden that horizon and start seeing things from as many different perspectives as possible. Very, very good as well if you have any particular view. Look at the opposing view, look at the highest quality spokesperson for the opposition, not the lowest common denominator that will just validate your own views, but really look for like the highest quality minds that you can find on any given subject, and listen to them. A huge quality of Virgo is the ability to listen and not make assumptions and not make judgments, and instead take everything as a individual problem, which is a wonderful thing, because sometimes the Sagittarian Jupiterian quality can be too all-encompassing and too like blasé, one size fits all. Virgo is very much like, no, I want you to get your correct shoe size. It's very important for you that you don't harm your foot, and you have this particular tread to the sole of your foot. We need to accommodate you in exactly the way that is unique for you. And it's that real attention to detail which wins you friends, which wins your self-respect, which means that you're a reliable person. And when Jupiter's there, it's expanded, and that's wonderful, because sometimes it can be so minute and minuscule, the work that you're doing, and it's kind of easily brushed aside. But when you have Jupiter here, it's like, hey, want some of my luck? Here, I'll give you the spotlight. I'll throw the spotlight onto this thing that you're trying to bring into manifestation. Because many of the things that you will want to transmit from your little desk, from your workbench, from your basement, that you think is just like a personal little thing, keep going at that as well, because time doesn't exist. Time is just a really like a construct. It's a spiral, and no matter whether you have 5 people watching you or 5,000 or 5 million, just keep doing your thing. Don't allow any kind of ego to get caught up with that. And the more consistency, the more slow and steady that you have going on, the more that will gain traction, and that will be given the Jupiter gift of expansion, especially when you go through any transit which is through the 6th house, or conjunction with Mercury, or moving through Virgo, as I say. The other thing is health, food, what you're putting in your body, the quantities of food, and observing the need for understanding individual quantity and the quality, and seeing your body as a scientific experiment as well. It's like we're all too happy to throw our will away to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes this pill or that pill, and let's see how that fits, but nobody knows you better than you. And cutting certain things out of your diet is not going to kill you. It's far less risky than taking any other chemical substance to come in and kind of something that we wouldn't have had in our original state as a human being. And instead, really just seeing yourself as you see your ancient ancestors within that, and instead of just seeing yourself in a very modern day context with modern day problems. Well, most of the modern day problems come because we are drinking coffee after 2 p.m. in the afternoon, so therefore we can't sleep at night, so then we take sleeping pills, and then we get addicted to them, and then they don't work anymore, and then you then develop depression because of your insomnia, and then you take pills for that, and it just turns into this very rapid downward spiral in which we've handed our will over, and we've not really just sort of thought, well, how can I make my life more in line with with a human that had just been dropped on the earth. Well, lights out with the sun down. It sounds very strict and horrible, but you know, you can work around this. You can just move yourself in more of a direction that's more aligned with nature, because ultimately Virgo is this, it's the witch. It's the understanding of the herbs and the seasons and the energy levels waxing and waning with the moon, with the tides, with the seasons, the harvest, how to have a good harvest, how to pray well from your heart, in a non-verbal form, just a wishing and a hoping with an understanding. And this is the optimism of Jupiter, this deep understanding that the world will provide, that there isn't finite resources for us. There is always going to be something that will help sustain human life. It's just that human lifestyle may be evolving and changing, and that's just a part of life. But it's kind of a being okay with change, being really well established in the natural world, so that when the changes do come, you're less taken aback by them. And allowing sunlight into your life is so important. I visit many people's houses here in Spain, and they have their shutters down the whole day, and I just think, what was the weather? I ask, like, what was the weather like yesterday? And they don't know. One benefit of living out in a caravan is I know exactly the hour that the strong winds came. I know when the rain started. You ask me, I'm a weatherman, except I just tell you what actually I tell you the weather as it is now. not so hot on predicting, apart from the fact that we live in a plain, so I can see well off into the distance. So I literally can stand outside and see the clouds coming. I can see the weather changing. I can see the shadow and the rain falling on a different part of the land, and I can feel it coming towards me. And that's a wonderful thing about wider perspectives. And one last thing is that, yes, you're dealing with small things, maybe microorganisms in a lab, but what else is small? Children, babies. This is a natural place of the caregiver, of the wet nurse, and someone who is well adept to be a mage, a mago, to help the next generation. We need more leaders, we need more teachers. We are fatally flawed in our society with a lack of parents. In my generation, fatally lacking in fathers. The mothers that were there, fatally lacking in any of their own mythology, very, very disconnected from their past, for better or for worse. There are many good reasons for that. There are many elements of trauma that can be thrown aside sometimes through sheer rejection, but as we come to see, these things go undercover anyway. So it's really about, no, don't just be a cold, a distant version of a human being that is completely cut off from the past. It's someone that has learned from the past, sees the good in it, and can then help to teach, to envision a future through the children and through expressing the absolute best qualities of humanity with them. And as I say that, the sun is coming out, and I'm so grateful for what Jupiter brings, and just sitting here speaking about it has lifted my spirits. It's one of those, it's just like a big gift, a big hug from God. It's fantastic. So allow yourself to settle in to this energy, and to see the very fact that they are so completely opposite, the smallest and the largest energy. See how those two things coming together can be the secret golden mean, the golden ratio. It can be that wonderful mid space where we see the world in a grain of sand, and everything as above is so below, and as within is so without. I am else, and so are you. You are everyone else. So thank you so much for being here. And if you would like to have a full reading of your birth chart, as this was only one element of your entire 360 degrees, you are more than your sun sign, please contact me via the website ineffableelse.com. Follow me on Instagram, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for being here. Lots of love.